that these three people are dead. Either they were killed prior to the ongoing fighting now, or they were killed as a result of the current fighting now. But however the intelligence may have been gathered, Israel has some assumption and some credible evidence that they're dead, but not enough to satisfy the criteria to determine them dead as far as the religious law and code that goes in the IDF.
Let's try a hypothetical here, Alon. Could Netanyahu cut a deal right now to get the hostages home? What concessions would likely have to be made to get that done immediately?
So that's the big question, and where the negotiations have come at a complete stalemate. The way the initial deal was formulated between the sides, and this is the Biden deal from May of 2024, and then it was changed a little bit in July, and then essentially under Trump's pressure, that is what was signed in January of 2025. That deal had three phases. We've gone through phase one. Phase two of that deal was the release of all the remaining hostages, and this is what Hamas is demanding, the release of all the remaining hostages in exchange for an undetermined amount of Palestinian prisoners that will be negotiated. Alongside that, the other two main criterion are a complete end to the war, both sides publicly declaring that the war is over, and a complete IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. That is what Hamas is demanding. Hamas is repeatedly saying, we are willing to sign the final deal right now. We are willing to release all hostages, and Hamas has repeatedly said, we also don't want the phased releases. We don't want the three hostages, then another three hostages. We're willing to release everyone in exchange for, I'll say again, an undetermined amount of Palestinian prisoners, likely several thousand. But really the stalemate is Hamas demands a complete ceasefire with international guarantees that Israel will uphold it, and an IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. Israel, in turn, has said that it is willing to advance on basically any formula of a deal, with the exception of a complete ceasefire and end to the war. Israel is willing to do temporary truces. Israel is willing to allow the entrance of humanitarian aid. Israel is willing to have a redeployment in the Gaza Strip. But Israel has said it is not willing to sign on anything that leads to an end to the war and an IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip without the sort of elusive total victory and Hamas's defeat, leading us to this current stalemate. Hamas has said it's not willing to go to a partial deal of releasing half the hostages for a temporary truce because the hostages are their only bargaining chip for the war to be over. In turn, Israel has said it's not willing for the war to be over. So that's the current stalemate. So, to answer your question, could the hostages be released now if Netanyahu went to a deal? Yes, theoretically they could. That would mean that Israel has to agree to a complete IDF withdrawal and the declaration of a ceasefire and an end to the war. Egypt had put forward a deal of possibly a 5-year ceasefire between the sides. Right now, Israel is not agreeing to that, and Hamas is not agreeing to a temporary deal, leaving us in the stalemate.
So, Alon, I was reading a little bit about President Trump's trip through the Middle East. It's going to be taking place next week. The Jerusalem Post is saying that Trump has expressed, and I should say the Trump administration has expressed its belief to Israel that there will be progress toward a hostage deal ahead of Trump's visit. He's going to be visiting 3 different countries, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. So Trump says they have some optimism on the U.S. side, but Israeli officials say that they see no indication to justify the American optimism. How big of a deal is this Trump visit alone, and does it feel like it could be a catalyst for a